All right, I'm going to walk you through the steps to design your own two-sided, multicolored, personalized coin here in tinkercad. To start, you should open the assignment here in Classroom and note some of the requirements you can see here. Okay, your requirements might be a little bit different than what you see on the screen here because I may have changed them over time. So you should make sure that you check for those numbers and those dimensions there on the assignment and use those if they are different than what I tell you here in the video. Okay. This design is going to be 3D printed afterwards, so once you design it, we're going to print it out. And for our little multicolor trick to work well, everybody needs to have the same height of the top of the coin, right? So that the color change will happen at the correct spot in the print. So let's get started. Okay. I've got a couple links down here. One of these is just an image that gives you some reminders about the heights, okay, and how to use the alignment tool. Okay. One of these is a link to Tinkercad. One of these is a link to a new website here called SVG Repo. Okay. So I'm going to click on that link. Okay. That's going to take me to a new tab here. Okay. SVG Repo has vector images, right? So it's a special type of image that scales up and down really well and that we can take into Tinkercad and use to bring in neat different icons and images, right? So on here, you're going to search for your own icon or image that you want to put on your coin. I'm going to search for something simple, so I'm going to look for something with some tools on it. That'll give me some options here. Lots of different things, from little screwdrivers and wrenches to a drill to that looks like a vacuum cleaner. Cool. You might find several different pages as well, so take your time, search for something fun that you like. Some recommendations here. Keep them simple. Okay, so these things here that have multicolors and lots of different stuff going on may or may not come into Tinkercad nicely. But if you bring something into Tinkercad and decide you don't like it, that's fine. You can always come back and search for a new image here. So let's see, I'm going to find something simple. Let's grab this guy. Okay. When you're looking at it here, okay, these should all be a free license. If they're not, you'll have to find something else. Oh, neat. That's more information on the license, I guess, if you want it. But then you'll click this Download SVG Vector button. Okay. And then that's going to download to your downloads folder, right? So you want to make sure you know where you save that. You'll want to know what it's called, right? In your downloads folder, but it's going to be a file type that's a .svg. That's our vectors. So I've got my image. Let's go over to Tinkercad. Okay. Open our link to Tinkercad. And we'll create a new 3D design. Okay. When we get in here, we want to double check that we're in millimeters right down here by clicking on our settings and making sure we change our units to metric if they're not, okay, because that's the dimensions that we've got here. All right. Then we're going to start with a cylinder, right? We're going to start with the body of our coin. So I'm going to drag a cylinder out here, and I'm going to change its size. Remember to double check the units on your assignment. Okay. But mine is going to be 40 by 40, so I'm going to make a 40 by 40 cylinder here. Remember, you can click on this little dot and then click on the numbers in order to type a number in and get it exactly the right size. And then for the height, I'm going to make the coin exactly 5 millimeters tall. Okay, so my coin is going to be 5 millimeters tall here. Okay. And that's got my coin, the base of my coin here, the right size. Some other things to note, if you want a coin with, if you zoom in, you can notice that this is not perfectly round. There are actually a bunch of little straight lines. So if you want a rounder coin, you can increase the number of sides here. So if I bump that up and I zoom in, now you don't see those little straight lines quite as much. Okay? So you can make your coin rounder or less round. I guess I could make it less round here as an example too. Now you can really see the sides. So I want mine to be a little rounder, so I'm going to increase those sides. Then to bring our icon in, we're going to click this import button up here. You're going to choose a file, and you'll go to that downloads folder, and you're going to grab that SVG repo file. Okay, and you'll say open. Okay, it may or may not show up there, so let's go ahead and click import and see what happens. And there we are. Okay. There are a couple things that you can play with once you get this in here. If you've got it selected over here in its little shape menu, you've got a height and a quality. Quality gives you more edges, right? So it makes things smoother, smoother and rounder. And this fill mode can change how it traces some of these lines. So you'll kind of see if I tell it trace the outside of the line, all of a sudden the inside of this shape is hollow. So you can play around with that and find something that you like. I'm going to leave it on the default, which I think is the inner line for mine. Okay, I'll orbit around so I can look on the top. And your icon can be kind of however big you want, as long as it fits inside of our coin. So it can't hang off the edges. It has to fit on the inside. Have a little border around it, kind of like that, right? So it's contained completely within the inside here. Okay. Then, once I've adjusted the length and width there, I'll change the height. I'm going to make this height exactly 7. Okay. And that's going to set it at the correct height so that it sticks up above the top of this coin by 2 millimeters. So we get a nice little bump off the top of the coin, but the top of this coin is the right height for us here. Then I might want to center these two things on each other so that they look nice. I'm going to select both of these. You can do that a couple ways. You can click and drag a box to select two shapes, like I did there. Or you can hold Shift on your keyboard and click on one shape at a time until you've got both. And then we're going to group those. Okay, they've recently added some new grouping types. You want this one that's in the middle. It's called a union group. So you're going to make a union group there. Okay. Oh, right, I forgot to align this. Let's ungroup this. Whoops. We'll reverse that. Okay. So we'll ungroup this. And I want to make sure that I've got this nicely lined up. So I'm going to use this alignment tool here. Okay. The alignment tool lets you adjust maybe how something sits top to bottom or left to right. Okay. Or front to back. So what I want is I want this centered front to back and centered left to right. And I want the bottoms aligned so it sticks out the top. Once I've got it like that, I'll come back here and click that union group button. Now I've got a single part here. Okay, so now we've got our icon in here. Lastly, we're going to add our initials to the bottom. So I'm going to grab out some text. I'm going to put my initials in here. Okay. I'm going to turn these into a hole so that they will cut out of the bottom instead, right? To get these to the right height, I need these to be 3 millimeters tall. Okay. So I need this to be 3 millimeters tall. And then just like before, I need to change the size. I'm just going to rotate over to the bottom. And I'll shrink these down. If you hold down Shift on your keyboard, it will shrink proportionally. And I'll shrink this down, maybe to about there. Okay. And again, I want to try to center this. So I'll grab both of these, and I'll use the alignment tool. I'm going to center this left and right. Double check that they're aligned on the bottom. I see that little gray dot right there. So they are aligned on the bottom. Okay. Now, something you'll notice is my initials are backwards. Uh-oh. Okay, well, they're going to cut out backwards because we're looking at them upside down here. So, let's grab just those initials. I'm going to pull these back out. We'll realign them in a minute. We need to flip them over, so we're going to rotate them here. I want to rotate them 180. So I can either drag it, staying within that center circle, okay, or I could type 180 into that box after I've clicked on it. And now that looks correct from the underside. Great, love that. Let's align this again. Boom, boom, double check. That looks good. We'll group those as well. Okay. And now what you should have is one part, okay, with your icon on the top and your initials cut out of the bottom. And when we print it, the icon on the top is going to be a different color. Okay, so how do you turn this in? Well, before we go to export things, you want to make sure you have changed the title of this to be your name and the color that you want to choose. So you'll need to check the assignment for the colors that are available to you this semester. Okay, so I'm going to put, for example, I'm going to put Westerner blue. So that I know I'm going to print this out in blue. So the coin will be blue, and then the icon on the top will be black. Okay. Then I'm going to go over here to export. I'm going to say export.stl. And that's going to download to my downloads folder. And then I'd return to the classroom here. Okay, so I return to Google Classroom, and then you're going to upload that. Of course, your view looks different than mine because it's the teacher view, but you're going to upload that STL file to me. Remember that it's not going to show a preview, so it's going to look a little funny if you click on it and say it won't preview a thing, but that's fine, that's normal. Upload that, hit submit so that that drops into the folder, and then we will get those printed out. Okay. Again, remember, double check your assignment details here for what colors you've got available. Double check your assignment details here for the sizes, just in case they are different than what I told you in the video. And if you forget some of these things, I've got some text here to tell you how to do the submitting, and you've got the image here as well to help remind you of some of those. You can always go back and listen to any of this. So good luck and have fun.